It's hard to believe that this is actually the fifth season with that as the Stanley Cup logo. Of course, the Stanley Cup playoffs and final logo changed once ESPN, ABC, and Turner took over the broadcast rights because I guess they wanted a new look to fit with their new, well, most somewhat new TV home. But in regards, that's the logo right now for the Stanley Cup, and of course you see it with on the shirt on this shirt from when we won the cup, and that time is coming. There are 40 days and 40 nights. I have to throw that in there. 40 days left in the NHL's regular season. So let's take a look at the playoff picture right now. In the Eastern Conference, the Tampa Bay Lightning lead the Atlantic Division. They are kind of in a lull, a little bit of a lull, but not a bad one. They're first place, tied in points, but they have 2 games in hand over Buffalo, so that makes them the first place team. Buffalo's in second, and Montreal's in third, but it's very tight in that Atlantic. In the Metro, Carolina's starting to run away with it. Carolina's starting to run away with the Metro. They're up by 9 points over the Islanders, who took over second place, passing Pittsburgh this past week. The wild card positions are still held by the Red Wings and the Bruins, but Columbus and Ottawa, they're closing in. In the Western Conference, the Avalanche were still number 1 overall, 93 points, up by 7 points over Dallas, who's ahead of Minnesota by 2 points for second place in the division. In the Pacific, it's the Ducks who are leading by 1 point over Vegas, and Edmonton's in third place, still kind of sputtering. The wild card positions are still being held by the Mammoth and Kraken. Sharks and Kings and Predators are still closing in. The Jets have an outside shot, but below that, not much of anything. So those are the standings entering the final 40 days of the season, and let's talk about the teams above the playoff line, starting with the Atlantic Division's top 3. A funny thing happened during Saturday's NHL action. For a few hours, just a few hours, the Buffalo Sabres were in first place. Yeah, the Sabres were in first place in the Atlantic for just a brief bit until Tampa Bay won their game in Toronto. So yeah, it's same number of points, but again, Tampa's 2 games in hand. Even so, the Sabres are the hottest team out of this triumvirate of Atlantic teams here. Tampa's been kind of on and off. They're not in a bad role, though, but they're kind of slowing down a bit. And Montreal's barely hanging on to third place. It's tight between them and Detroit, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the final 40 days. It should be very interesting. Will Buffalo win the Atlantic? They're definitely going to make the playoffs. That drought is finally going to come to an end. Will they win the Atlantic Division? We'll see, but it's going to be very interesting. The Penguins, they're not in big trouble, but they do have a few problems. Of course, they've been without Sidney Crosby ever since the Olympic break ended, because Crosby actually got injured before the gold medal game. But they've been without Crosby. They're going to be without Crosby for a good bit. And now Evgeny Malkin, who's basically Crosby's like lieutenant, he's serving a 5-game suspension. So yeah, their top two players are going to be out together for a few days, but at least Malkin will be back after suspension. Crosby, we don't know, but it is showing. It is showing. They are 2-2-2 in the 6 games they played after the break, and it's catching up with them. And as are the Islanders. The Islanders surpassed them this past week, and it's pretty much a near foregone conclusion that Carolina's going to finish first in Metro. So the Islanders and Penguins, that's going to be an important back and forth, because second place means home ice in that series. And right now the Islanders have it, but they do play each other one more time on March 30th. That's in New York. And of course, nothing's really changed in the Eastern wildcard race. Detroit and Boston still hold the spots, and it's pretty close. Boston might move up to wild card 1. maybe third place the Atlantic if they go on a tear. And of course, Montreal. Montreal's only 1 point ahead of Detroit. Detroit's closed in on third place. They could get that. So we'll definitely see what happens in that Eastern wildcard race. The Central Division, beautiful, isn't it? And especially with the Avs on top. So yeah, and we I'm still giddy over the trade deadline. We traded for Nicholas Roy, and more importantly, we got Nazem Kadri back. I mean, I am so elated. And of course, the Avs were up by 7 points in the division. We had a big win against Dallas on Friday, and of course today, Sunday, we're hosting Minnesota. And it's pretty tight in that Central. I just want to say this out there. People are using the Central standings to say, they need to go back to 1 versus 8, the 1 versus 8 playoff format that was around for like 20 years, in the 90s and entering the 21st century. People say they need to go back to 1 versus 8. People need to stop picking on this format, okay? Because when we got Oilers Kings fourth straight year, people were like, they need to change back to 1 versus 8. No, we don't. This format guarantees great matchups. Do you really think about it? If we got 1 versus 8, Dallas and Minnesota would probably be playing also Rans and getting easy passes to the second round. Do you really want that to happen? And do you really want to prevent Avs fans from the joy of seeing two division rivals we don't like tear each other apart for 7 games? This format's here to stay, and it should. And the people kind of picking on that format, they wouldn't have survived. They wouldn't have made it through hockey in the 80s. They definitely wouldn't. Whoa, look at this. The Anaheim Ducks with 40 days left, sitting on top of the Pacific. And I'll be honest. Of course, the Ducks had that strong start, but they fell off badly around like December, January. And I'll be honest, I was kind of nervous. It didn't look like they would make it past. It didn't look like they would make it back above the playoff line, let alone on top of the division. Now, the Pacific's been kind of bad this season. And some people say, well, it's a bad division. They're capitalizing on a bad division. And I wish they wouldn't say that because it really discredits what the Ducks have been doing. The Ducks have been pretty good. They look great. They're the best team in the Pacific. Vegas, they'll have a lot of flaws. But they really need to start winning games past regulation. Of course, I can't talk. I'm an Avs fan, and we can't really win past regulation either. But the Oilers, oh boy. The Oilers are a mess. They're a far cry for that team that made the final back-to-back years. They really are. And it looks like they might be cemented in third place for the rest of the year. They might be. But again, crazy things happen around this time. And of course, nothing much has really changed in the Western wildcard race. You have Utah and Seattle holding those 2 spots. It's looking good for both teams as far as making the playoffs. Utah, they won't really make it to the top 3, but they'll definitely stay in that wild card spot. Seattle actually has a chance to move past Edmonton in the Pacific. So we'll see if they'll do that. But behind that line, you got San Jose, LA, Nashville, and yes, Winnipeg. They all kind of have a shot, kinda. So that's gonna be an interesting race. And that is a look at the playoff picture heading into the last 40 days of the season. I just know it's going to be an amazing home stretch. So that's the playoff picture. If you like this video, click the like button. If you're on YouTube, click subscribe more. If you're on TikTok and Instagram, feel free to hit that follow button. And the link above, that's my story on Vocal. Check it out when you can. And I'll be back this time next week for another recap. Stay tuned.